Here's the story. The Marijuana Policy Project works nationwide to change drug laws. In March of 2013, they put up a billboard in downtown Portland, Oregon. Beer, wine, safer. The Oregon representative with the Marijuana Policy Project is Roy Kaufman.
What just happened is we just had a press conference unveiling the new billboard that went up just about a day ago. The billboard we put up in advance of two things. One, this weekend being the Spring Beer and Wine Festival at the Convention Center. It's one of the biggest alcohol festivals and celebrations in Oregon, and it kicks off a whole season of alcohol or beer and wine festivals. And the other is that April is Alcohol Awareness Month, and what that means is we want people to, it's not our event, it's been National Alcohol Awareness Month for a long, long time. And it was really created to make people aware of the harms of alcohol. You can consume alcohol responsibly, but there are significant real personal and public health impacts.
The billboard got the local media's attention. Every news outlet in town showed up and did a story.
Is pot safer than alcohol? Well, that's what some marijuana advocates say.
Now take a look, and some people are giving this a second look. A billboard in downtown Portland.
Our top story, a new billboard with a controversial message in downtown Portland.
Two stations, both of which happen to feature noticeably younger news anchors, did allow room for arguments in favor of pot's relative safety in their broadcasts. One was the Fox affiliate, and the other was the NBC affiliate, KGW, with this handsome young man reading the news.
Marijuana is safer than wine or beer, so claims the group behind a new advertising message.
But the other two channels in Portland took a more predictable approach to the marijuana billboard, quickly dismissing the safety claims and instead spinning up controversy.
Now this is stirring up a lot of controversy, even right across the street.
K2's Patrick Preston is live now at Southwest 13 in Alder. And Patrick, there are dozens of neighbors who have real reason to be upset about this tonight.
That's right, Steve. But the bigger controversy is the location. It's in probably the worst place you can think of, right across the street from a drug and alcohol treatment center.
Because right over there is a treatment center, we found out, that handles people who have alcohol and other drug addictions, including people who are addicted to marijuana.
K2's reporter Patrick Preston spoke with at least two recovering addicts outside the DePaul Treatment Center who were very upset with the billboard.
My personal experience, my life, it all started out with smoking weed, and that was a gateway that led to harder drugs.
As a recovering addict, I think it's horrible.
But K2 did not record an interview with anyone inside the treatment center. And if they had, they could have ended up broadcasting a much more modest reaction to the billboard.
News like this causes more buzz. And so when our clients walk in the door, they probably are talking about this because it's news and because it's news that's relevant to them.
Terry Forrest is the Director of Professional Services at the DePaul Treatment Center. His offices are right around the corner from where the billboard was hung. He says the pot legalization group's message had an impact on DePaul's clients who are in treatment for addiction.
Does it come into conversation within a treatment group? Absolutely. But that's not new. That's not new at all. That's been going on for decades.
The drug and alcohol treatment community has been developing policies towards medical marijuana use for a long time. Oregon voted to legalize medical marijuana way back in 1998. A lot of people who've gone through treatment with DePaul have had prescriptions for medical marijuana use. Terry Forrest says that their official policy is to contact the physician who issued the prescription.
We're coordinating with physicians to make sure that drug use is appropriate, particularly in the context of knowing that people are here in order to change their drug use or cease their drug use. There's a certain incongruency there that we want to address and also make sure that physicians are fully informed of what's going on.
I was led to believe that the vast majority of people are required to stop using pot entirely to complete their treatment, with exceptions only for those with severe cancer pain or wasting illness. Terry Forrest couldn't tell me any specifics or if there had ever been such an exception granted at DePaul, but he did say that prescription or no prescription, people who were sent to DePaul after driving under the influence of intoxicants are required by law to stop using pot.
Permission to use it or possess it through having a medical marijuana card is certainly a different matter than what it takes to satisfy the requirements. For example, if the client is in treatment for driving under the influence, because that medical marijuana card does not override or therefore allow the person to to continue to use demonstrate that, which will show up in their urinalysis tests. And so their treatment and successful completion of that treatment would mean abstaining. So you have an inherent conflict in that. It's something that we would be talking with them about.
And as far as the treatment center goes, staff there are going to encourage recovering addicts to talk it out if they have any problems with this billboard. Live in downtown Portland, Patrick Preston, K2 News.
Hopefully that conversation does indeed take place, Patrick. Thank you.
Veering off into a discussion of how marijuana, legal or otherwise, functions in the lives of individuals with substance abuse problems is a fascinating distraction. But it's a little outside of the point Roy Kaufman of the Marijuana Policy Project was trying to make with the billboard, which is that alcohol can be both a dangerous intoxicant and a beloved local industry.
Alcohol is the third leading lifestyle-associated killer of Americans. It killed 1,400 Oregonians in 2010, the most recent year for that data. 1,400 Oregonians is the population of Sisters, Oregon. It's the population of Depot Bay. We're not talking about something that is harmless. What we're saying is, if we're going to encourage and promote the use of alcohol by adults, at a minimum, we need to be making sure that adults are aware that marijuana is demonstrably safer than alcohol.
The Oregon-Washington border is just 7 miles from the press conference in downtown Portland. In November of 2012, Washington State voted to legalize marijuana while Oregon's legalization measure was defeated. Various groups are wasting no time pushing ahead with the next campaign. The Marijuana Policy Project thinks that 2016 could be their year to legalize pot in Oregon.
It's time to look at what are the facts. And the facts are marijuana is objectively less harmful than alcohol. It's important for Oregonians to understand that, to appreciate that, and to keep that fact in mind as this debate goes on.
The billboard and the press conference held underneath the billboard allowed the Marijuana Policy Project to get their message out in sound bites on the television news that week. But the most interesting exchange between reporters and Roy Kaufman was left out.
Do you think by making marijuana illegal, that's forcing others to drink? It sounds kind of like that's what the implication is.
That's absolutely what we're doing. You know, when somebody is at a party, let's take a gentleman by the name of Michael Phelps, for example, the winningest Olympian in Olympic history. He went to a party after the games where he won, 2008, I believe, the most medals ever. He went to a party, he drank a whole lot of alcohol. He was caught taking, in a picture, smoking marijuana from a bong.
Michael Phelps was 23 at the time of the pot smoking controversy which cost him his sponsorship deal with Kellogg's. But less well known is that at the age of 19, Michael Phelps was arrested for drunk driving. This was the year 2004, in which over 16,000 driving deaths in the U.S. were alcohol related.
So what we're saying to the kids who see that, and we're saying to his peers who see that, is if you are in a situation where you can choose to consume alcohol or you can choose to consume marijuana, society will tell you it's better that you choose alcohol, even if it's bad for you, even if it makes you violent, even if you're breaking the law in some cases, underage drinking. So we, as a society, have been encouraging people to consume alcohol. And what we are saying in Oregon is we're not jeopardizing and we're not threatening the stability of Oregon's beer and wine industries. They're a combined $3 billion a year industry. They're going to be fine. What we're saying is for adults who choose to consume marijuana because it's safer for them, because they prefer marijuana over alcohol, they shouldn't be criminalized. They shouldn't be ostracized. They shouldn't be stigmatized. We should be treating them with respect, and we should be letting them make that safer choice.
All of the television news coverage, both open and closed-minded, passed on the chance to share with their audience that the Spring Beer and Wine Festival, which was targeted by the billboard, supported the billboard.
We couldn't get you guys to the festival, but this is working good enough, so at least we'll get the word out about the festival this week.
Steve Woolard is the director and founder of the Spring Beer and Wine Festival. He spoke at the press conference, but none of the stations in Portland used the footage.
Are you worried that the billboard might discourage people from going over to your festival and drinking some beer or wine?
Not in the least. I'm looking forward to those people coming over, and we're looking forward to this moving forward, and hopefully it will get legalized at some point. It brings in a lot of tourist dollars, and we are a tourist industry. When we put on this festival, we get people from all around the world. We'd like to see more people show up and enjoy our fine products, and if this is going to be one of them, all the better.
Do you think marijuana is safer than beer and wine?
It is safer than beer and wine.
Why are you so certain?
Well, I've been using it for 44 years, so I have at least a little bit of background on it, and I feel it's extremely safe for people. And it's not just safe, it's medicine.
Do you have a medical marijuana
I do
card?
have a medical marijuana card, yes. And I wish this would progress sooner. I'm glad that Washington and Colorado have taken the lead on this. Oregon should be right there with it. And if we could move it along quicker, next year, Easter is on 4/20.
Well, there you go. What about moms and dads who are watching who might have teenagers at home who are impressionable and think this sends the wrong message to them?
That is a discussion they'll have to have with their kids.
Thank you, Steve. Appreciate your time.
When the director of a large beer and wine festival tells reporters his honest opinions about marijuana, it doesn't make the news. But again, most of the stories were only a minute and a half long, so we can understand that things like this are left out. Only one station did devote twice as much time as the others to the marijuana billboard. Can you guess which one?
Did you or your group know that the treatment center was across the street?
You know, I think the treatment center down the street, the billboard, when we talked to the billboard company, we saw what was available, and this is what was available. Drive through downtown Portland and you see countless brew pubs and distilleries and billboards for alcohol advertisements. Did the treatment facility ask the advertising company to take the Coors billboard down that was immediately up before this?
Well, there's a reaction. Sure, there's a reaction to seeing it and its proximity to the clinic, and knowing that would potentially have create a strong reaction on the part of those who are here trying to change their lives and trying to stay away from images, places, people, circumstances that might remind them of drug use and recreate or regenerate that craving for use.
I think it's important to point out, and I would invite the folks from the treatment center to be part of this conversation as well. These are treatment experts who deal with people who are suffering from addiction. You know, they should be the first ones to stand up and say we need to educate people about relative harms of different substances.
Well, part of the education process teaches that, in fact, most of the population doesn't have a problem with alcohol, but a small percentage does, and those typically are the very people that we work with. So it's really, I think, much more relevant to address the fact that if I'm speaking to you as that client, that you have come as a person who is having problems with it and who isn't able to use it in a fashion that creates no harm, so to speak. So again, whether legal or illegal, it's a lot more about, in terms of the work that we do, about what has been the impact on your life, and whether using marijuana is safe compared to other drugs isn't so much the issue as whether it has created havoc in your life and what the impact has been. It does tend to serve as a gateway kind of drug and leads people into other activities, but we're here to provide treatment services for them.
Does beer act as a gateway drug?
Does beer act as a gateway drug? It acts, well, use of any kind of drug, alcohol or other drug, potentially puts people in an environment and that may expose them to more substances.
Terry Forrest of the DePaul Treatment Center made it clear to me his views on marijuana. He said it's an unsafe substance for people who have drug and alcohol addiction problems, and that compulsive use of marijuana can have a negative impact on people's lives. But when I put to him the position of the Marijuana Policy Project, that pot is safer relative to alcohol, and asked him what his views on marijuana legalization was, this is what he had to say.
Through decades, if not centuries, society's view of drug use in general and any one drug in particular changes, oftentimes with the political sands shifting, and an agency such as DePaul, I think, would be focused not on so much that getting involved in a discussion about that issue and more on prevention. That's where our focus would be.
We know the science on this. This is not debatable science. Marijuana is safer than alcohol in any way that you define it, in any way that you measure safety. And if we're going to talk as a community about how to treat and legislate and regulate this question of marijuana, we need to do it with the facts. And I think the media interest that we saw, we had almost, I think every single station, every TV station, and a number of print reporters here as well. What that says is there is a hunger for this kind of conversation. Yes, anytime you put a pot leaf on something, you're going to get a reporter's attention. But the reality is that that's not enough. That's necessary but not sufficient. What we need to be doing, and why I think we're getting the response that we're getting, is we're saying we're going to provoke you, but we're going to provoke you because the conversation we want to have with you is important.